Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching the arts and animation block with us today. We're going to do a Q&A now. I'm Delilah Reed. I'm a local artist here in Wichita, Kansas, and I will be doing the Q&A. We have with us today Eric Pumphrey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. Thanks. Thanks for being here and talking with us. Eric is a writer and actor and director. And do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before I ruin it all?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I started out as an actor. I'm a writer director as well, and I primarily do live action. And Love You Cuz is the first animated film that I did, and yeah, so I'm very excited to be festivaling with it and for it to be playing here. And yeah, I'm ready to talk about it.
It's so exciting. It's such an awesome short, really fun to watch. I just really liked it, but it did leave you with a few questions. So I'm glad we're here to ask them. Is this your first film that you've directed in animation?
In animation, yeah, I've worked in animation a little bit on like a few short sketches, like nothing over 2 or 3 minutes long. And so this I would count as my first, and then it was so long. I mean, 15 minutes is a lot in the animated short world.
Yeah, it definitely is. I was really curious, how long does a 15-minute animated film actually take to create?
So this might have taken me a little bit longer than somebody else. I wrote it, we did the voiceover, and then I started on an animatic with like a moving storyboard with one of an artist that I found here in Los Angeles. And we worked on it for about 8 months, just the animatic alone, and really dialed it in because I knew that we're going to go to animators or an animation studio. And I just wanted the animatic. It was going to serve as the Bible. So I wanted it to be, and if you see the animatic, it's pretty close. I mean, it's all black and white and, not full blown animated, but it didn't change much in performance to the full animated piece. And then we found an animation studio in Canada, Laughing Dragon, and they were awesome. And they got it, and they're really passionate about it and willing to work within the budget we had. And then we worked with them for about 10 months to a year to finish it. So it took almost 2 years.
My goodness, such dedication for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So for this film, you wrote this is yours, right? So
Yeah.
Where did you get this idea from? How long was it kicking around in your head before you started writing it?
So I actually was working on this story in this sci-fi realm that was for a graphic novel, and it's a completely different story, but I took 2 of the characters from it, Kirby and Brixton. I really wanted to tell a story with those 2 characters animated. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she was telling me this weird story about something that happened with her cousin. And it just got my mind rolling. And I was like, I was like, I should do something about cousins. I have Kirby and Brixton, and over the course of a night. And I just really wanted to play around with the themes of like what bonds us together, and then our boundaries as well, and how serious we take those. And then also in society, how serious people take them. So, and I thought a night over the course of a night with cousins and maybe some drugs, that it could be a good way to illustrate some of the stuff that I wanted to explore with them.
Yeah, there are definitely some really hilarious and funny moments, and I really especially like the drugs and that they had, and the animation was just really awesome. So golly, there's so much. You told me just so much. Sorry, I had some notes and they're useless. So with how many actors do you have on this? Like how many, you just had the two characters and then, well, three. How many voice
So
actors did you have?
we had, I think we probably had about 8 voice actors total, and some people voiced a few voices in it. And the main, I would, in my dream world, I could have gotten a voiceover booth that had to where the actors could act with each other, but we recorded all of the performances individually, which I don't know that I would do again. I would love to not have to do that, so that you can have, because in live action, you know, it's about like actors reacting and working off of each other. And when we were all in the voiceover booth, it was very a siloed experience, which led me to have to do voiceover a few times. Like we would get what we could from a session, and then I would go back, cut it together, and see what pieces we needed. So we probably did 3 rounds of voiceover to, you know, perfect performance. But it was mainly the main 2 voice actors are, I voiced one of the characters, Brixton, and then Donzel voiced Kirby, and then we had Rosalind who voiced the grandmother, and then a few other people did like, they might do 1 or 2 voices.
That's really interesting. It's animation's so interesting to me, and then there's so many layers that you never even consider or think about that you have to run into.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a marathon compared. I consider like live action, like you do all this prep and then it's a sprint while you're filming. And animation, the good thing about it is it takes so long. There's a lot of places where you can pivot and correct, but you still need as like thorough of a game plan while you're doing it, so you're not wasting artist time, you know.
Absolutely. Um, did you run into any like really big challenges that you weren't expecting, or any roadblocks while you were creating this film?
Um, the biggest challenge for me was figuring out how to work with a studio and like 40 artists remotely, because we were doing some animation during the pandemic. It started before the pandemic, but we finished the animation in the pandemic. And, you know, being remote, they were in Canada and we were working through Frame.io. I don't know if they upload something and then I could give like notes on it. And it was really difficult figuring out the back and forth until it got to the point where the animation studio was like, Eric, just talk to the artist directly. And so I'm sure they hated me by the end of it and were annoyed, because I'm like, oh guys, can we you know, this is almost right, this is almost right. But that was one of the biggest barriers, was like working through you know, through the internet and directing people, because in essence all the animators and illustrators, like all of them are performers, you know, they're bringing it to life. And being able and having to work through with performers, like through typing or emails and over a distance, that was probably the hardest barrier, because, you know, in live action the person's just in front of you and you can just direct them. So
Yeah, that would be definitely difficult. But look at you, you did it. Um,
hold it off.
so um, it's wild to think about 40 artists like working on one thing. Um, um, so with your film, did you have a specific, I mean, I know that we're kind of, what was your takeaway that you wanted people to have whenever they see this film? Did you have any like specific feelings or thoughts that you wanted to kind of encourage through it?
Well, one thing that was pretty important to me was representation in the genre of sci-fi, and then the medium of animation, like not only Black people, but also having a gender fluid character in there and representation for that. And it's just something that I hadn't really seen before. And I was like, you're in a sci-fi world, I feel like this is something that is very real, and these are experiences that people would definitely have in the future, but then also grounding it and making it you know, this is a story that could happen today. You could have two cousins who spend the night with each other and go to a club, and one's trying to cheer the other up, and like you could have all this, but to be in a cool sci-fi setting, an environment where there are aliens. I mean, one of my friends said this thing after he watched it, which made me laugh. He was like, you know, it's so cool because you're like, it's in the future and there's aliens and people are having sex with aliens, but you still can't kiss your cousins. And I was like, it just made me laugh because I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I hope when people, when it ends, that people have more of like a somber feeling of like, you know, Kirby's goal was to cheer up her cousin, and by the end of it, you know, she did, and there is a bond between them that's stronger than it was in the beginning of the film. So, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit of ambiguous so people could take away from it what they will, but I hope it's in a good way.
Mhm. I left with a good feeling about it.
That's awesome to hear.
So are you working on any, what's your next projects? What you up to?
My next project is a feature. It's more in the realm of what I was doing before at Love You Cuz. It takes place in Louisiana and France in the 50s, and so I'm moving forward with that. Hopefully we're filming that next year. So it'll be
Yay.
my first feature.
That's a big deal. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So with Tallgrass, our motto, our like festival motto is stubbornly independent. And so one of my favorite questions to ask is, what does being stubbornly independent mean to you?
Stubbornly independent to me, I guess there's so many barriers in creating art independently, and lots of the times you don't feel supported, and it really is just your drive and vision that, you know, pushes you forward. So I guess that's what stubbornly independent means to me, is like having the wherewithal to push through all of the barriers that it takes to make independent art.
They just fill me up with a lot of joy. So that's a great response. Thank you for that. Would you like to add anything else as far as telling people about your film?
No, I hope everyone who watched this enjoyed it, and yeah, check out as many of the programs as you can. I mean, it's really hard, you know, doing what we do, and it's such a validation and amazing thing to be a part of a festival like this. So, you know, I hope people watch as many films as they can.
Yeah, there's a lot this year, but it's definitely experience. Would you like to tell anybody how to find you so we can follow you along on your life's journeys?
Oh, the easiest way to follow me, I guess, is on Instagram, and I guess my handle on any sort of social media platform is just at ePumphrey. So my first initial and then my last name.
We'll be following you and cheering you on. Thank you so much for talking with us today, and I hope you have a great day.
Of course, thank you too.
Thank you so much.